My quest is called Nature's Palette, and in my quest, I made 30 eco-friendly paints. Imagine standing in a cave. Over 600 paintings cover the walls and ceilings. Each little image signifies hundreds of years of history. You see prehistoric animals replicated on the walls by humans 17,000 to 22,000 years ago. These decorations have lasted thousands of years. Painting has been a big part of our history all the way back to the prehistoric era. The first ever painting was estimated to date earlier than 30,000 BC. Art has taught us so much about life before ours and the culture that created it. Many paintings depict historical events, giving us different perspectives and ideas about the world many years ago. Acrylic paint was created in the 1930s by a German chemical company when they started experimenting with synthetic polymers in paints, replacing linseed oil and lead. Today, acrylic paints are one of the most used art materials across the world. However, I've discovered some downsides to this paint. Acrylic paint is a harmful medium for the environment and also has some important health concerns that many artists are not aware of. This information gave me the base of my quest project. To really understand the impact of acrylic paint on the environment, let me explain to you what it is made of. The three main ingredients that make up all acrylic paints are water, pigments, and a binder that holds everything together. In many commercial acrylic paints, there are tiny, unseen plastic particles located in the binder. The primary ingredient and most common binder is an acrylic polymer emulsion. This means that when you wash your brushes or empty your water after painting, all of these microplastics are going down the drain and into the environment. Something people might not know is microplastics are actually a very big issue. Especially considering they are invisible to the naked eye, many people do not think they affect us. But did you know they are in our water, food, air, and even inside of us? In 2024, researchers did a study on people's blood vessels and found literal microplastics. They also discovered that people were 4.5 times more likely to develop heart attacks, strokes, and heart-related death if the plastics were in their blood. Clearly, they are a big problem, and acrylic paint is one of the products that contain them. Even excluding the plastic binder, acrylic paint still damages the environment due to the chemicals and synthetic ingredients often included. When companies mass-produce products, such as acrylic paint, they add stabilizers, thickeners, and preservatives. These ingredients make the paint thicker, more vibrant, and cheaper to make. But they're also one of the reasons why acrylic paint is not natural or biodegradable. Something else I learned was that acrylics are not just bad for the environment, they are also bad for the artists who use them. Acrylics are made with synthetic pigments and can cause health risks. There are also small amounts of ammonia and formaldehyde in acrylic paint. Those chemicals are highly dangerous and even in tiny amounts affect your body. But the most worrying side effect is that paints that use chemical-based pigments can be absorbed into your skin and sometimes enter your bloodstream. I decided on this quest because I love painting. Growing up, my favorite thing to do was draw. Then when I was 10, I started taking real art classes and was introduced to a new style of art. I worked with new mediums like charcoal, oils, ink, and of course acrylics. I loved the fact that I could create any color I could dream up by mixing paints together. I learned about color theory, layering, creating texture, and giving paintings volume. This past year, I realized for the first time that I didn't know what paint was made out of. After doing all this research, I thought I knew other people should know too. Art has always been important to me, and this project aligns with the values of keeping the earth clean and people healthy and safe. After learning all this information, I felt even more strongly about my project. The first part of my project was coming up with a recipe I could use to make my paints. I knew I wanted to make the pigment from a natural source, but I was stuck on finding a binder that didn't have plastic in it. Through research, I discovered a new company called Natural Earth Paint. This US-based company started in 2009, and its mission was to find non-toxic alternatives to all different types of paint. In 2021, they released the first ever plant-based acrylic medium. I also discovered that most of the profits they collect from selling their art materials, they donate to organizations across the US dedicated to keeping the earth clean. I knew this was the perfect solution. I ordered the medium, and in those weeks, started thinking about collecting pigments. First, I went all around Oakura to places like Lucy's Gully. There, I collected clay and rocks from the stream. I went to Rotorua and found some very highly pigmented rocks there to collect. Over the break, I even found some beautiful rocks on Aitutaki. Everywhere I went, I was constantly collecting different possible candidates, not knowing which would work. For experimentation purposes, I also collected some plant-based pigments, like beetroot and even sea urchin spines. After identifying most of the rocks, the paint-making process began. There was a lot of experimentation involved, and I discovered many things. Even though rocks may all look the same, they each have different properties. So you can do the same set of steps for two different rocks and get two completely different results. Because of this, making the paints turned out to be more of a challenge than I anticipated. For example, one of the rocks I crushed is called tuff. Once I got it into a fine powder, I added the acrylic medium. It worked well, so I let it sit in the cupboard for 24 hours. When I took it out again, I saw that the rock, water, and medium had formed layers based on how dense they were. Apparently, tuff is insoluble, meaning it doesn't dissolve into liquid. Definitely not ideal for paint. Situations like this happened all the time during the paint-making process. I just had to remind myself to be patient and try new things. Also, to accept the fact that some rocks will not turn into a smooth paint like others. I think the biggest lesson I learned in this quest was to trust the process. I had a decent quest at this point, but I wanted to make it even more meaningful. While working with my teachers, we got the idea of having an art exhibition. There I could sell paintings made from my natural acrylics and use the profits to buy Natural Earth Paint's acrylic medium for the Green School. I emailed Faya Sarah and she approved of this idea. Because of the money I raised selling my paintings, kids at Green School now have access to the necessary ingredients to create their own eco-friendly paint from plants and rocks. Throughout this project, I have learned so much, and not just about paint. I have gained so much knowledge through hands-on experiments and lessons. My project is primarily focused on art, but I didn't expect how much geology, chemistry, organization, and science, as well as many other things, would play a part. Here are some photos of my So now you all know that making natural paints is important because they do not contain toxic chemicals that get released into our environment, they prevent unwanted plastic polluting our planet, and lastly, they are better for our health. Natural paints actually come from our earth, so on top of helping our planet, you get to connect with nature in a unique way and add additional meaning to your paintings. I want to thank my parents for supporting me throughout this project, and my teachers that helped me expand my ideas to make it even more meaningful, especially Faya Charlie. Vincent van Gogh once said, "Keep your love of nature, for that is the true way to learn and understand art more and more. If one really loves nature, one can find beauty everywhere." Thank you.